This week in the House of Commons, MPs began debating Stephen Harper's plan to extend the military mission against ISIS. The Conservatives argue that extending Canada's direct military engagement in the region for another year is critical to stopping jihadi extremists who have specifically named this country and Canadians as targets. Political consultant Michael Geoghegan is with us for our weekend political roundup. Michael, is this debate a winning issue for the government, since the polls suggest the public is all for this?
Yes, it appears to be, and for exactly the reason you stated, which is the polling numbers suggest that majority of Canadians, they want ISIS dealt with. They don't want to continue to see atrocities. They don't want to continue to see women and girls put in slavery and innocent people being beheaded. They want the use of force to bring this nihilistic group to heel.
So what position does this leave the opposition in then?
Well, it's an interesting one. We've seen, although the Liberals are still in second place, we've seen the NDP numbers coming up. I think that reflects a bit of a regional divide. Probably the least amount of support for an expanded mission against ISIS is in Quebec. Strongest support seems to be more out in Western Canada. So, the numbers are starting to shift to reflect that. And so, Quebec looks like it will stay, a lot of ridings will stay NDP in the upcoming federal election if these polling numbers hold. So it's a very interesting dynamic where I think the NDP feel that where they are gives them a shot at being official opposition. The Conservatives, they're literally riding the war horse into the next federal election, and the Liberals, once again, are kind of caught in the middle.
So why would the opposition parties want to talk about an issue that plays to the government's perceived strengths?
Well, I guess in this sense, it's shoring up their core support. Another thing is, I think they're trying to highlight the differences between the Liberals and the NDP, but that gets a little nuanced. And then, last but not least, I think they're trying to somehow take the ISIS debate and put it in with more controversial things like Bill C-51, which gives expanded powers to CSIS and whatnot, which is an issue which certainly. There's growing concern amongst Canadians on that. So I think it's part and parcel of that debate.
Also growing concern in provincial politics now. A budget tabled in Alberta a year and a half ago. Would anybody dream that there'd be a deficit and so many worries there?
Yeah, and it's, once again, as it was the case in the 1980s, Alberta has the hangover after years and years of oil boom and massive revenues from that. Now comes the hangover. They spend 20% more per capita in Alberta than, for example, here in British Columbia in terms of health, education, and social services. Now with gas, the price of gas plummeting, price of oil plummeting, now they're struggling to figure out how to pay for it. And in this budget, what they've hit Albertans with is literally billions of dollars in tax and fee increases. I think it'll be in 2016, 2017, $2.2 billion a year in new taxes and fees.
Meanwhile, in Quebec, a surplus, is it on the backs of people like students and healthcare?
Well, to some extent, yes. I mean, in the sense that health and education, well, health have gotten some increases, but certainly not the kind of increases that allows them to maintain at the inflation rate that health undergoes. So in effect, there are cuts, even though they are getting modest fee increases. But here's the irony. Alberta's into a deficit and Quebec has a balanced budget. That's certainly the reverse of what we've seen for many years in this country.
Absolutely. Michael, thanks very much. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.